I'm your host, Anya, and today we have an extraordinary guest, Matt von Boecklin. Matt is a former program evolution specialist and chemical engineer who traveled the world, picking up some bad habits along the way. After overcoming his addictions to cigarettes, alcohol, and Crampton, Matt now dedicates his life to helping others quit Crampton and opiates through his innovative Quit Kit. Today, we'll explore Matt's incredible journey from addiction to recovery and how he is now making a difference in the lives of many.
Thank you
So,
very much.
Mhm.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, Matt, can you share with us how journey with addiction began and what led you to Crampton?
Yes, absolutely. And I appreciate it's a little bit of tricky pronunciation. It's kratom. Kratom is uh it's a leaf that grows on a tree down in Southeast Asia, and it's been there for centuries. And it's just now made its way over to the United States in these highly concentrated forms. I gave up cigarettes back in 10 years ago. Um, and I picked up the habit for cigarettes when I was in college, right? So I go to college and I knew cigarettes were bad. My mom raised me to say, you see cigarettes, just say no, right? But my friends, when I got to college, they were smoking and it was cool, right? These were the cool friends and I wanted to be like them. And this is kind of how addictions start, right? You never intend to go down the route of cigarettes or alcohol or tramadol or kratom, but you become exposed to them through some third party. And then, based on the perception that you have at the time, well, you're going to start doing it or not. So in college, I started smoking, and I had never really drank alcohol previously to college either. But again, everybody that was cool was doing it. And so I started doing it. And at the time, it didn't seem like a big deal, right? Everyone's doing it, everybody's having fun. So then college ends, and now I'm a pretty heavy drinker, and I smoke cigarettes. It's like, great, let's carry that into my adulthood. So that's how that began. And then Tramadol is a low-level painkiller, you could call it. It's not going to get you as high as something like morphine or heroin or fentanyl, but it's in the same family. Like, it will activate the opioid receptors in your brain and induce euphoria at high enough concentrations. I encountered that by wiping out on my motorcycle in the middle of a Liberian jungle on my way back from a beach trip up in Robertsport. So I used to work internationally, right? And I lived in Monrovia, which is the capital city of Liberia. I'd gone up to Robertsport for a beach trip on my motorcycle, came back, wiped out over a really, really big pothole, and then went to the hospital where they prescribed me Tramadol for the pain. The issue is Tramadol, being like heroin, being like opium, will make you feel really, really good. So if you run out of pills, well, the thing about living in Liberia and many other countries is you can find pretty much whatever you want without a prescription. Unlike the United States. So I just kept getting it. And for the next year, I kept taking Tramadol until I quit cold turkey. I had had enough, and that's its own story. And so that was back in 2016, right? And then Kratom just enters my life randomly at some store a year and a half ago now. And I tried it, and it was just like Tramadol. It was just as potent, made me feel just as euphoric. And then boom, I'm right back in the middle of something that I knew I shouldn't be doing. That's the long story of it.
Mm-hmm. So, what was the turning point that made you realize you needed to quit?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Mhm.
I think there are a few, but when I couldn't get through the morning without having to go outside to get some dose of kratom to just be in my afternoon, right? Regardless of what I was doing, it wasn't like I had a stressful day or something, I needed a crutch. It was just like, no, this is what I do now. And similarly to when I quit Tramadol, I woke up one morning and I just thought, you know, I look terrible. My skin is all dried out. This thing ages you really badly. Um, I feel sick. I can't sleep well. If I take too much of this, I get the spins. I get dizzy. I can't drive. I can't walk. It's like that moment, epiphany comes to you, and you think, I'm just not the person that I want to be. And I remember that moment, and that's when I decided I was going to try a new way to quit.
Mm-hmm. It's so powerful to hear about the moments that spark such significant change.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, when you're up in some sort of version of your life that you hate and like suddenly you really see it clearly, that's a hard moment. And yeah, and then you have a choice. You have a choice. Are you going to take action or are you going to keep going? And it's really easy to keep going. I'll tell you, Anya, it's so easy to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't, you can get better. And I'll just say to anybody who's listening, who's going through struggling with addiction, no matter how many moments you've had, you can get better. You can do it. I promise you.
Mm-hmm. So, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced while trying to quit?
Withdrawals. That's really it. When you go through withdrawals from a drug like Kratom or a drug like Tramadol, again, these are similar to heroin and morphine in that opium pharmacological profile. So these withdrawals, I mean, they're famous, I think, around the world for being really brutal. Extreme agitation and anxiety and feelings of stress. There's an imbalance in your neurochemistry that causes this, right? Because if you take a drug long enough, especially one that has an opium-like pharmacological profile, your brain becomes so used to having your opioid receptors activated and thereby flooding out dopamine and other good feeling molecules throughout your brain, we call these neurotransmitters, that when you're taking the drug, your brain actually downregulates your dopamine receptors, for example, so that this constant flood of dopamine that you're having isn't going to falsely reward you for doing nothing. Like the brain knows that this is not normal. So it actually turns down the ability for you to feel good off that drug anymore. So you take more and you take more. But when you stop taking the drug and you enter this period of withdrawals, you now have neurotransmitters that are firing towards receptors that have been downregulated. I'm talking about dopamine in particular here. And what that means is nothing feels good. Dopamine is that chemical that gets you up, gets you moving, gets you chasing your goals, rewards you for chasing your goals. And these could be goals from like eating food and drinking water to getting married and I don't know, having kids, right? It's just all there. And when you have a dopamine receptor that is not working properly, then you're not going to be able to enjoy pretty much everything. So imagine you're trying to quit a drug that is ruining your life. You say, all right, I'm going to stop taking it. And in reward, you have a period of 5 to 7 days where nothing feels good and you're stressed and you're anxious falsely, because your neurotransmitters don't fire correctly. You can't sleep right. You lose your appetite. This is the hardest part about quitting the drug.
Mm-hmm. And overcoming such hurdles requires immense strength and determination.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, how did you come up with the idea for the quit kit? And what was the development process like?
Well, thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
I so I'm a chemical engineer and I have a background in program evaluation in international development programs. So I'm really used to doing research and I know how to conduct third-party research. And I thought, all right, I got to get off of this Kratom stuff, but I don't want to A, go to a doctor. I don't want to B, get a prescription for a drug like Suboxone, which is used to get people off of painkillers. And C, I don't want to go to a treatment center. All of these things require me publicly announcing that I have a problem and and committing my name to having a problem, and I was just not ready to do that. So I thought, all right, if the withdrawals are what is holding me back, can I do something about the withdrawals without going to a doctor, without getting a prescription, without going to a treatment center? And so excuse me, I started doing research. I did research on what over-the-counter ways, over-the-counter supplements were available that could fight withdrawal symptoms common to opioid use disorder. Again, Kratom has an opium-like pharmacological profile, so if I want to get off Kratom, is there anything out there that helps people get off of heroin, for example, that you don't need a prescription for? And I didn't think there was going to be anything, but there was. And there is a voluminous amount of literature, clinical trials, medical studies on things as simple as vitamin C. And I really mean that, as simple as vitamin C, that help lessen the severity of these withdrawal symptoms from opioid use disorder. So I thought, oh, wow, all right, there's a bunch of stuff that I could take. I know that this withdrawal symptom will hit in the morning, this one will hit in the afternoon, and this one in the nighttime. I put together the supplements that would fight those withdrawals based on their time of onset into a 3-time-a-day regimen, right? So if all these withdrawals hit in the morning, I'm going to have these supplements to take when I wake up. Similarly for the afternoon and similarly for nighttime. And I bought the supplements and I just said, all right, let's do this. And I can't tell you how surprised I was that I basically felt no withdrawals when I quit, and I haven't looked back. Like I was done in July, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. It's fascinating to see how personal experiences can lead to innovative solutions.
Yeah, it really is. I completely agree. You know, I never thought that this was going to be something that I would ever need, but also something that I would ever need to research. Like this is crazy that that just was a chapter and is a chapter of my life.
Mm-hmm. So, how has the Quit Kit impacted the lives of those who are struggling with kratom and opioid addiction?
Thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Again, I never thought this would be something that would happen in my life, but it is. I don't want to say saving lives because that might be too dramatic, but it is. I have had people tell me that what I made is saving their life. So that's their words. But look, this thing, it worked for me, and I felt this moral obligation. This is back in September 2024. We're talking in February 2025, right? So this was 5 months ago. I just felt like I had to get this to people who needed it because it helped me. And I started reaching out in online support communities like the Quitting Kratom thread in Reddit, and then was featured as a guest on the Kratom Sobriety podcast and talked about my story and the Quit Kit. And I just said, look, to everybody out there, this worked for me. I will send out 50 free Quit Kits, the same formulation that I used, to anyone who needs it. No questions asked. You just send me your information, and I only ask that you pay for the cost of shipping. So this was actually a lot more work than I ever anticipated it would be. I sent out over 2,000 individual little packs, like a morning pack, an afternoon pack, a nighttime pack. I mean, I made these by hand, in a controlled environment in my home. And it cost, like $2,800 overall to get all these supplements, to put them together, to ship them. So, okay, so 50 free quick kits go out. And it's like, do they work? Is it helping people? And the feedback was unanimous. Yes, this is helping me. I'm now X days off of Kratom. I forgot to take my afternoon dose today. And then the withdrawals kicked in. So I went and I took it and they went away. It's like, oh my gosh, this thing isn't just something that worked for me. This is working for dozens and dozens of people. And I decided to get Quit Kit professionally produced and manufactured in a laboratory and with certified good manufacturing practices. And I thought, I'll just do this full time. And that brings me basically to where I am today, helping people with the Quit Kit all across the country.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And hearing about these success stories is truly inspiring.
I wish I would love to spend all day talking about the way that these people
Mm-hmm.
have been able to overcome their own addictions. 'Cause it's like, yeah, I know I'm proud of myself for being able to do it, but if you're able to have even the most minor role in helping someone else get out of that trap, boy, it's hard to beat that.
Mm-hmm. So, how does QuitKit offer an alternative to traditional addiction treatments like prescription medicines and rehab programs?
Good question. And that's really the whole point of creating a Quit Kit in the first place is, all right, let's paint a picture. You're addicted to, let's say, Kratom, right? Because we've been talking about it. You spend every day spending at least $50 on your habit. Um, and you want an alternative. You want to quit, but you don't know what to do. So your options are, you can go to a doctor and get something called a prescription for something called Suboxone, which contains an opioid and a opioid receptor blocker. So that's buprenorphine and naloxone in one pill, Suboxone. And this is used primarily to get people off of the hard stuff like heroin and morphine and fentanyl. But more and more people are using it to get off of Kratom because they can't quit the Kratom. So essentially, you're trading one drug, Kratom, for another drug, Suboxone. Now, you can taper down from the dose that they give you. Let's say they give you 2 grams a day. They say, you'll go down to 1.5 grams a day in 4 months. And then 4 months later, you'll be down to a gram a day. And then in a year, you'll be almost done with the Suboxone prescription. It's like, are you insane? Like, I want to quit this drug, so I have to do a year-long prescription to Suboxone? It's like, yes, that's actually pretty common treatment. And then there's the option, the more nuclear option, which is, all right, I can't control myself. I need to go to a facility and be checked in and be monitored by medical staff as I detox. And what that means is that you're prevented from leaving, and they monitor your vitals, and the drug gets flushed out of your system. And that can be pretty brutal. There are different ways to do it. For example, they can put you under IV sedation so that you do it when you're asleep. 4 days you're sleeping, and you get the drugs out of your system. But again, you have to be willing to do that for that to work. Quit Kit says, all right, there is very clear scientific literature saying that X supplement can combat Y withdrawal symptom so that you don't have to talk to the doctors or go to the treatment centers. And in the morning dose, it's meant to give you energy, fight mental fog, and give you motivation. One of the key ways that it does this is it gives you a dose of L-DOPA. L-DOPA is an amino acid that is a precursor to dopamine, which when you are in withdrawals, you are in short supply of. And even though the supply that you do have isn't going to activate the dopamine receptors like a normal healthy brain. So it's like, all right, we don't have much dopamine. Can we get some? Yes. The Quick Kit morning dose has L-Dopa, which supports dopamine production and gives you the sense of motivation that you'll be lacking in withdrawals. And then, your brain is basically in need of repair when you are in withdrawals. So you're going to need things like antioxidants, vitamin C. You're going to need energy, metabolites, energy providing vitamin B to increase your metabolism to give you energy. Pre and probiotics, which are going to help restore the gut microbiome and the gut brain axis so that, you get so much of your neurotransmitters from your diet, actually. And when you're using drugs heavily, your stomach just gets torn up, or your gut lining rather, and you have what's called dysbiosis. It's where you have an imbalance in gut bacteria, so you can't absorb your neurotransmitters like you normally should. So put some probiotics in your gut and start to regrow that microbiome. And then you have something called N-acetylcysteine. It's another amino acid, and this is excellent at promoting brain health, liver health, and reducing cravings by calming down overactive neurotransmitter activity. And like fighting cravings is one of the key things that the Quick Kit is able to do. And that's just the morning dose. The afternoon dose gives you a sense of calm and focus so that you can sit still and not run out and buy whatever drug of choice, we were talking about Kratom, you want to buy. And then the nighttime dose promotes deep, restful, deep wave sleep so that your body can repair itself. Your brain repairs your body the best when it's sleeping because it has all the energy that you would normally have to be awake and go do stuff, and it can transfer that energy into repairing what's wrong. And so you need to be able to sleep. And typically when you're going through withdrawals, it's really difficult to get good sleep because, again, your brain is in need of repair, your body is in need of repair, and your neurotransmitters are way out of balance. And so you take the Quick Kit nighttime dose, and it's got this, strong knockout punch that'll put you to sleep, but also a relaxation agent that'll make you calm and relaxed before you get to sleep. It's the whole package. And that is not something that you can get at a doctor's office. It's not something that you get at a treatment center.
Right. It's important to explore all available options for those seeking help.
I agree. Oh, 100%. Look, just because I work on this stuff and it worked for me, it doesn't mean that whoever you are, wherever you are, don't do your research. Look into what your options are and what works best for you.
Mm-hmm. So, how has your journey from addiction to helping others transformed you personally?
Oof. That's a tough question. I think there are positives and negatives. You look back at the time that, from the negative side, time that you wasted, and you can get kind of regretful about how much more you could have done in your life, or how much healthier you could have been if you weren't smoking cigarettes or drinking booze or taking painkillers. But it's not productive to think those thoughts, even though you're stuck with them. So it's changed me to give me memories that, I'd probably rather not have. But in a positive, it is unlike anything to be a human being addicted to a drug, because there are not many things in modern society anymore that trap you as completely and force you into slavery as a drug addiction does. And if you've been through that, then your ability to understand other people and know that this could happen to anybody is completely expanded versus someone who never went through it. It's like once you've gone through it, you'll never forget it. And you can understand what it means truly to be weak and powerless in this modern society. And it gives you an ability to connect with other people that you otherwise never would have had, and please don't have that. Don't get addicted to find out what I'm talking about, but
Mhm.
just the silver lining of it.
Personal transformation often leads to profound insights and wisdom.
Yeah, I think so. Profound insights, like, when you were in school and they said don't do drugs. Yeah, they were right.
Right. So, what advice would you give to someone currently struggling with kratom or opioid addiction?
Okay, yeah. Good question. I'll put myself back in the shoes where I was in early July last year. The advice that I wish I would have gotten. It doesn't matter if you've tried to quit and failed in the past. All that really matters, and I mean this, all that really matters is that you keep trying something new to get to the point where you can quit successfully. There's this perception that we have that if we don't quit successfully the first time, then we simply don't have what it takes to quit successfully at all. And that is fundamentally false. Addictive drugs are addictive for a good reason. They reprogram your brain to use them. They literally hijack your neural pathways. And so if you can't beat that the first time around, don't think it's because you're weak. You are not weak. The fact that you're willing to try to tackle this addiction and quit shows just how strong you actually are. So my advice is, whatever you tried the first time, if it didn't work, try something new. There are books out there in a genre called quit literature, that provide ways to restructure your perspective on the drug so that you no longer view any positive or any benefits with it ever again, right? So that your subconscious is propelling you to quit. Like, that's very effective. I recommend Alan Carr for that. I recommend Jack Trimpey for that. It's the Easy Way and the Rational Recovery books. So check that out, and then if, how do I say it? If you didn't make a plan, like an actual structured plan, write down what your plan was. Try writing things down. The human mind, when you visualize a goal, even writing it down, studies have shown that you're more likely to achieve them just by writing them down, just by looking at them. And don't tell yourself that you are an addict that is stuck. Tell yourself that you are an addict who has everything to gain. You are not sacrificing anything by giving up the drug. You are not giving up the drug. You are setting yourself free from the drug. That is the best piece of advice I can give you. Don't ever think that you're giving anything up by leaving your addiction. All you are doing is setting yourself free from mental slavery.
Mm-hmm. Supporting such impactful work. Alright, so your advice will surely resonate with many listeners who need hope and guidance.
I hope so. Boy,
Mhm.
I hope so.
So, thank you, Matt, for sharing your incredible journey and insights with us today. Your story of overcoming addiction and helping others is truly inspiring. To our listeners, remember that no one is alone in their struggle, and there are always options and support available. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversation on Mind Over Matter. Until next time, take care and stay